On? Yeah, we turned on? Yeah. All right, this is the August 25th regularly scheduled council meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. All right. Good evening. We're at citizens' comment portion of our meeting, and I have several on my list here of sign-ups. So Ms. Whittleton is first. Mr. Whittleton, I'm sorry. I don't read completely today.
Nick Whittleton. Here in Port Orchard, we have an ordinance that lists 19 types of nuisances. We have developed plans for what we want our downtown to look like, but we have not thought of what we don't want our town to look like. We are allowing derelict, neglected buildings to remain throughout our community by not having an ordinance that incentivizes property owners to maintain the appearance and functionality of their property. This in turn drives values of adjacent properties down, adversely affecting the perspective of visitors and residents alike. In some cases, wasting valuable and limited commercial space that is not generating income for the city. The house that burned over the weekend off Wilkins, the house on Mitchell above the 76 station, and Myrie's building are all blights on the community, and we need something in place to protect the citizens, business owners, and cities from this type of negligence. I have provided a copy of the Neglected Derelict Buildings Ordinance from Denver, Colorado. There are similar ordinances in Portland and Tacoma. The Michigan Municipal League has some great reading on and a sample of blight ordinances. We need to do something to turn this problem around. This is more than just another nuisance. Thank you.
Ms. Vaught.
Hey, I can do that.
Okay, well, I don't know that it was not picking up.
Good evening. Nicole Vaught, 243 Tremont Place. I would like to thank Mayor Mathis for his participation in the celebration of the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II on August 17, 2015. It was a whole day of events at the Park Vista Retirement Home, with very moving moments when World War II veterans present were recognized for their service and sacrifice. Thank you, Mayor, for your participation. This next comment is direct to Council Member Beck Ashby, and she isn't here, but it pertains to everyone on this City Council. Beck promised on her campaign that she was going to bring back the citizens' confidence in their City Council. I'm here to tell that in order to do this, you will have to facilitate open and direct communication with the citizens that come to the City Council. Instead of telling us that you are using the Robert Rules of Order as an excuse not to answer even a simple, easy question, either you should indeed use the Robert Rules as they were designed for, because they are there to facilitate communication, or you should have said simply, please give me your detailed question and contact information, and I will find answer and get back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person signed up is Mr. Stanley.
I'm here to discuss or point out some issues that I've been having. I purchased a triplex on Bay Street with the understanding that it is a triplex. We had a realtor called the city and was told that the 1636 Bay Street was grandfathered in and could continue to use it as a triplex as long as it's not a vacant no more than 6 months. I talked to the associate planner prior to my purchase. I told her I was doing my due diligence and looking into purchasing the property at 1636 Bay Street triplex. I asked her what I could do with the property. Can I add additional units? The associate planner looked up the usage of the property and explained the current zoning and permitted use. This led to a current legal non-conforming use of it being a residential triplex. After a long discussion, she said we could continue to use the current building as a residential triplex. I had several other conversations with her regarding the use of the using the building as a residential triplex, just to make sure I was clear on the use before I purchased the property. I made many trips to the city hall and told many people I was doing my due diligence and looking into purchasing the 1636 Bay Street and wanted to continue to use it as a residential triplex. Prior to the purchasing of the property, I met with the assistant city engineer, the associate planner, and the building inspector. We discussed filling in a ditch, cutting some trees, putting in a driveway, and retaining walls. Everyone knew I was doing my due diligence and looking into purchasing the property. I purchased the property based on being told from the city of Port Orchard staff that I could continue using it as a residential triplex. After I purchased the property, the building inspector told me it was only a single residence and I could only use it as a single residence. I informed him that the associate planner's comments that it could be continued to use as a residential triplex. She, in the presence of the building, admitted that she told me that I could use it as a residential triplex, but stated that she did not do a proper investigation. Had a pre-application meeting on July 7th, 2015. I was told by Nick Bond that his staff told me prior to my purchase that I could continue using the 1636 Bay Street as a residential triplex. Mr. Bond told me numerous times at the meeting that they are not legally responsible for what they say behind the counters. I was told by another member at the meeting that I should have done my due diligence prior to purchasing the property. I told him I did not, that I did, and that the staff told me I could continue the use of this triplex. Mr. Bond said his staff is not legally responsible for what they say behind the counter. This conversation went back and forth for approximately 3 times. To this day, I still have not received any report or documentation from the city regarding the pre-application meeting. And I was talking to my wife, I think it's been 51 days. Nick Bond said he could use a neighborhood letters as one source of it being used as a triplex. He said I would have to find another source, such as a rental agreement, letters prior to December 28, 1998, that could be used as a second source. He said he was required to get 2 sources. I provided to Mr. Bond.
Mr. Stanley, your time's up, but we have enough additional time at the end of the meeting for another 3 minutes. Do you have a place there you could stop and pick up at the end of the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. King?
Sharon King, resident of Kitsap County, outside the city limits, but also chair of the 125th anniversary party for the city of Port Orchard. I got 3 minutes. I'm going to make it quick.
You can talk. You can talk when you
I can talk while I'm doing this. This
We'll
is
stop
hot
the
off-
clock.
This is hot off the press. This is the latest brochure. This has all the fun, all the activities that you're going to have down on the waterfront. For everybody to come down exercise for the day. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful event downtown. Brian Petro is spearheading this wonderful historical display that we have going on in the Port Orchard Pavilion. It is really taking shape nicely. Pancake breakfast kickoff at 8 a.m. in the morning, grand opening ceremonies at 10, and then activities throughout the day. We have enough cake to feed 1,000 people, maybe now about 1,200 people, because 2 more came in today. So we have enough cake down there to feed at least 1,200 people. We want everybody to come to town and celebrate our city's birthday. Okay?
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay.
Is my light still green?
Light's still green.
This is the new Port Orchard Opoly board game that Fathoms of Fun is doing to commemorate our 125th anniversary. It is awesome, and I just want to thank everyone who bought a spot on this board. And if you haven't bought it, it's $25. We have approximately 112 already pre-sold out of 250. We're only ordering 250, so these are going to be real keepsakes. That's the front of the box. That's the back of the box. Where do we get them, Sharon? You can order them online at fathomsoffun.org, or you can hand me a check right now tonight. How much price? 25. 25 a game. Y'all like it? Mm-hmm. Y'all bought one yet?
Yes, ma'am. You know what? Your light's still green. Are we? All right, now it's over. Okay. All right, now, that was the extent of the signups, but that's okay, because now if you have something you would like to make additional comments to the council, please raise your hand to be identified. Okay, over here first. Thank you.
Evening, Council. My name is Teresa Osinski. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Home Builders Association. I was a little bit disturbed to see Mr. Stanley cut off with his remarks, so I yield the rest of my time to him.
Okay, I'm going to take off from where I left off. Letters from relatives, neighbors, renters regarding the use of building being used as a triplex. The Community Development Department records has a county assessor's office record showing that the permit was taken out in 1965. 2 of the letters state that the building has been used as a triplex since the 1960s. A 1978 application states it has been used as a triplex. I provided Mr. Bond with documents from the county's assessor's office stating that it has been taxed as a triplex. Mr. Bond said that this document was very important for my position if proven to be from the assessor's office. However, Mr. Bond said that nothing on the document showed that it was the assessor's office, and I needed to gather a letter from the assessor's office that it was from them and that it was being taxed as a triplex. I went to the assessor's office. They stamped the document and said it was proof enough showing it was provided from the office. Mr. Bond still did not accept the document and stated that the burden of proof was on me to prove that it was from their office and it was being taxed as the triplex. I went back to the county assessor's office. They said that there was no other proof that they could provide, and that Mr. Bond knows it's from their office and that it was being taxed as a triplex. I was told the next step was to hire an attorney. This conversation was relayed to Mr. Bond. It is still my understanding that Mr. Bond is still not accepting this document as being true. On June 29th, 2015, I was away from my home on 1636 Bay Street. The code enforcement officer went into my home and took pictures without my presence or permission. I brought this up with the code enforcer and Nick Bond. Again, on August 24th, 2015, the code enforcer went onto my property and took pictures without my presence or permission. Mr. Bond said I was making this to be a big deal, and I told him it is a big deal when the government goes into a person's home without the homeowner's presence or permission and takes pictures. Mr. Bond falsely stated that I was going to sue the city. The city shut me down from doing business, and I was told that the staff, and was told that the staff was not to talk to me. I tried to talk to the mayor about the problem I was having, and he refused to talk to me. Later, when I asked Mr. Bond what specifically was said that I was going to sue the city, he said he didn't remember the exact words. Later, he said the attorney said, if you don't do what I want, then I'm going to sue. I said this doesn't make sense that my attorney would say that. I asked him what was the context of the statement, and he stopped talking about it. Mr. Bond did ask. Mr. Bond said, did you ask the question? When we're going back and talking about it being a triplex from the very first conversation I ever had about it being a triplex, and I brought it up with the city, he said I didn't ask the right question. The right question, he says, did you ask the question, was the use of the building a triplex legally established? And I told him I didn't say it in that context, but it was. So, and then Mr. Bond, did you apply for a permit? Was that, he made a statement. So, did you apply for a permit?
Mr. Stanley, your time's up again.
Okay.
I'd like to ask the council to weigh in on this. They have told me to stay pretty closely to the 3-minute rule.
Okay.
So, what's your pleasure, council? What?
Do you know how much longer you need to finish your letter?
Well, I don't have a problem coming back and talking.
I mean, is it 2
a
more
little
minutes,
bit.
do you think, or do you have any idea how much longer you need?
It's probably going to be at least another 3 minutes. I don't mind waiting at the end and bringing it up at the end.
I'd just as soon let him get his 3 minutes over with, and I'm not sure I would like to hear the rest of it, personally.
Is that pretty much all right with everyone? Okay. All right, please proceed then.
Okay. The problem, there's a lot of problems I'm having here. Being told one thing and then the steps, and it's not. I'm in a no-win situation here. I've done my best to do what I think is legally. For instance, there was an oil tank that was removed. The prior owner did the oil tank, and he did it without a permit. And then he went in and got a permit, and it should have been told at that time that he needed to get some other permits. He should have got, and so I meet with them later on and discuss issues like, it was about expanding the driveway and putting a wall up, but he did. They met with them, and they told me that he needed to get a shoreline permit, and that he also needed to the shoreline permit and another permit. I forget what it is. And then so at the pre-app meeting, so we're thinking we got all the necessary permits necessary at this point. But I go to the pre-app meeting. In the pre-app meeting, they're telling me that, well, I think now you need to go and get another permit from the health department. They don't know, but they're thinking I need to do that. I go to the health department, and they tell me that they know that they're supposed to be contacting the health department. And so they call over, and then at some point, then they said it's no longer their responsibility to do it, the health department. Then it goes back, and they tell me I have to go to the state. This kind of stuff is what I'm having a problem with.
Mr. Cartwright?
Mr. Stanley, it's obvious you're frustrated, and it looks to me like you've deviated from your prepared statement, and I'm having a difficult time following you, and I want to follow what you have to say. Right. Do you have copies for the council that you prepared, or can you give it to the clerk so we can read your timeline and when your meetings were and all of that stuff? Because it's obvious you're frustrated, and I want to track your timeline and when these things happen, but you lost me when you deviated from your prepared statement. I'm sorry.
Well, that's kind of what I was wanting to do, is wait to the latter part so I can talk. What happened, I started writing it down. I started on this stuff too late, and I wanted to come over and voice what I had here. So I'd like to... concerns, but if I could have some more time later on, that would be great. Or I
for
can bring it
one,
up during another
I,
meeting.
for one, am interested to find out what's going on, and I'm sure, we'll hear from staff as well. What's the rest of the council? I'm sorry.
I think we're very interested in your issue, but we want to hear all the facts.
Right.
And it doesn't sound that they're ready yet.
Right.
I think a prepared statement from you outlining all of it would be much easier for us to follow. If you could
Okay, I can
put it
get
in
to
writing
that.
and submit it to the city clerk and provide us in that format would be much easier for us to follow, that's for sure.
Okay.
And I guess I got a question, Nick. A pre-existing, possibly non-conforming triplex, if he were able to prove it, would it then be he doesn't need any permits? It's pre-existing, or does he just need buku permits?
I'd like to interrupt at this point in time and say that we shouldn't be discussing the ins and outs of his permit application here in this forum. There are a number of facts that you all need to be acquainted with. And in addition, it is true that Mr. Smith has threatened litigation as well as his attorney. So I don't think this is the appropriate forum for us to be discussing the facts with the staff and Mr. Smith.
Can I make a comment on that? I have told everybody that I know that's here, that I've communicated with the city, that I have never made any accusations of suing the city. Never. And I constantly do that, but the city shut me down from talking and doing any kind of business whatsoever at all. And I keep bringing it up time and time again. There's never been any comments of suing the city. This was taken out of context, and I
Mr.
confronted Mr. Bond on this, and he did not.
This isn't actually a court. So I mean, this isn't a court, and we probably I will make a ruling according to staff that this is not probably the place that we need to try this particular disagreement. So.
Well, this has cost me a lot of money and downtime on this,
Right.
and I've been shut off, and I was shut off by the mayor to go in and even talk to you. This is, in my mind, this is extremely serious. In my mind, it's extremely serious when the government comes into my home without my permission and takes pictures. And not just once, it happened twice.
Okay. All right. Could you please give us a timeline through the city clerk, and then that'll be dispersed to the council, and then we will have a meeting and talk to the appropriate people and get their side of it and get back to you.
Yeah. Where I'm concerned is I'm shut down, and there's no way I'm going to be able to succeed in this at all, period. And I've told everybody my intention is never to sue, but my hands are tied behind my back.
Mr. Stanley, I'm
Yep.
going to speak for myself, and if the other council members want to weigh in. I hope to get to the bottom of this, and my sincere desire is a resolution that works for everybody. But we don't know the facts. So if you could do us a big favor and put it down on paper in a timeline, we'll hear from you, we'll hear from staff, and I'm hopeful that this will get resolved. That's my hope.
Yeah.
But this isn't. I don't think this is the time and place to resolve it.
Okay, I will write it down.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, please.
Thank you. Roger Jensen, Saints Car Club, Port Orchard. I was asked to come down, talk a little bit about the cruise that we just put together this year. This is the 28th year. This is our 18th year of doing this. Van Volist and Ron Perkowitz did it for 10. Then it got too big for them, and they asked if we'd take it over. Just real quickly, we were down a few cars because of inclement weather in the outside area, but we had between an estimated 15 to 18,000 people walk through during that day. Largest single one-day event on the peninsula for one day. And we had over 550 cars, including our club cars. We don't judge our own, but we show them. And so we felt it was another successful year, but without the support of the council, the mayor, the staff, the police department, Public Works, we couldn't put this on, and we want to thank you as a club for allowing us to do this each year. a little bit quickly about the club. It was formed in early 50s, 51, by a Port Orchard policeman. And I think maybe to keep us off the streets, I'm not sure. But I joined the club when I was in high school before I even had my driver's license. And then in the early 60s, when the Vietnam War started, guys either went to war, went to serve our country, went to work, or went to school. And so the club was kind of inactive till about 95, and we got it going again. And a lot of the charter members, including myself, we got it going again, and we're chartered for 65 members now. The cruise, of course, is held each August, and the club's mission is to promote interest in building and restoring hot rods, street rods, classic vehicles, and then to support community charities in our community. We have a scholarship at the high school, an automotive fund to continue young people's education in the automotive field. We need people now because of diagnostics of automobiles and so forth, and so we're trying to do that. I have the support of all the major car companies in the area, including Bremerton car companies, to give me equipment to help the school. We're working with the school to try to get them to continue the automotive program. They want everybody to learn Mandarin Chinese and cut out some of these vocational classes, and we're still working to try to get this done. Every Thanksgiving, our car club works with Helpline. We donated over 400 man-hours at Christmas and Thanksgiving, giving out food and presents and gifts to people less fortunate. And so our whole goal is to give back to the community. And last, we'd like to congratulate the city of Port Orchard on their 125th, and we're going to be a part of that. And congratulations, and thank you for letting me come tonight and tell you a little bit about the cruise. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Cartwright,
I have one quick question. Based on your self-disclosed timeline of events, if I were to go home and rent American Graffiti, would I see you in that movie?
Yeah, it's been a long time. But
Same timeline.
anyone else have any questions, comments? Well, thank you. And it was a beautiful, I was down there all day. It was a beautiful show. Probably the rain the day before kind of slowed things down, and I think a lot of the folks that normally came from far away might not have came into town for,
we send out over 700 postcards every year to people that registered the year before, and we keep track of all the zip codes. So if you'd be interested in seeing that, we certainly provide that. But it's kind of interesting to see where people come from.
Actually, I would, and if you could send it to Brandy Reinerson, then we'll get it out to everyone. Everyone may be interested in seeing just where everybody came from.
Yeah.
And then there's that 18,000 that just passed through visiting, and checking it out.
There
So.
were over 15, we provide bus service because unfortunately there's no kids at transit on Sunday. That's another story for the day. But we pay for the buses on each end from the courthouse down to the marina and from the park and ride down to 10 feet. And we're going to do the same thing for the 125th. So that's what we do to get people down. There were over 1,580 riders on the buses, and 478 came across on the boat.
So, very good.
So that's how they get here. And I know the city likes it because people are laid back, they're walking through, we don't have the drug and alcohol problems, and we're pleased to get the support, because without the council, we couldn't do it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, hands up. Oh, yes, sir. Sorry, I did see your hand a minute ago and I forgot you. Okay.
My name is Lauren Blank. I live at 305 Perry Avenue here in Port Orchard, and I'm here in support of Stanley Smith. We bought our property in 1990. We are directly across the street from the property that Stanley Smith purchased. Ever since we have owned that property, it has been 3 units, 3 separate units. I think that since he's applied for his permits to do what he's doing there has been just great. Since 2009, we've had drug people that live there, drug problems, using, dealing. The city of police department's been called there numerous times. The sheriff department's been there numerous times. Since Mr. Smith has purchased this property, he's done nothing but attempt to improve it. In response to that, he's improved our neighborhood. He's done nothing but good for what's going on there. To me, he's run into nothing but conflict from the city of Port Orchard and the mayor in his attempt to improve this property. And I think it's a shame that the way the city has been treating him, he's jumped through all kinds of hoops. Every time he wanted to attempt to do something, he's contacted the city to make sure he had permission to do it right. In one meeting, he's been told, we're not responsible for what the city says. If you're not responsible for what the city says, I think we've got a big problem here. Stanley, I still have a green light here. If you have anything else to say, I'll give you the floor. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Arm wrestle. Yeah.
My name is Glenn Wilkerson. I'm a business owner in Bay Street in downtown, and I'm going to make a gripe here. There seems to be a lack of downtown business awareness from this city council. Only one member has ever been seen downtown, according to business owners surveyed. I expected better from my representatives who are in charge of what could be a destination for visitors. Downtown Port Orchard has such great potential, and we as business owners expected more involvement from this council. I don't speak too much in front of people. So far, the only thing that's happened is the market that seems to be a dismal failure. When customers ask me what there is to see and do in Port Orchard, I'm hard-pressed to come up with anything. I usually tell them to take the foot ferry over to Bremerton, as they have ships and other antique boats to see. We don't have anything in this respect to draw visitors downtown. We had hoped the market would draw customers, but most days that does not seem to be the case. We as business owners expected more from this city council in the development of downtown. The other issue is the blight of downtown, Myries. That was closed due to the fire in 2011. Customers comment they almost didn't stop downtown as boarded up buildings usually mean high crime and may be unsafe to shop. We have offered to even paint and make the building more presentable, but this offer was declined. The other issue with Myries is the unsafe condition it is in. A customer came in and proceeded to tell me about her son being hit by a sheet of plywood that flew off the building during our last thunder and lightning storm that we had, and it was very windy. There is a witness, and I'm waiting to hear from this individual. I hope to have more information by the next council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep, be you.
My name is Shelley Wilkerson. I am also part of that business owner down there in Bay Street. And I have to concur with Mr. Smith. There is a serious coding issue problem that we have here in Port Orchard. During the coordination of the Art Walk last year that I helped with, it became very obvious that the city's signage and coding restrictions were very unfriendly to promoting our events and our local businesses. I understand that Bay Street is a designated state highway, and that limits certain disturbances such as road closures that can be done when downtown. But unfortunately, having a small business down there is a real dilemma when we can't do anything about it. And I think that if there's any way that the code restrictions can be lifted slightly for the benefit of the small businesses downtown, it would be awesome. We're a dying town. And each time we attempt to copy any of the niceties of the other local communities and towns such as Paulsbo or Gig Harbor, we're shot down on sign and code issues. We went through a lot of this with just trying to get a stinking Art Walk sign. I mean, just to get the flags done. It's like, no, it's a highway. We can't do that. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have heard that signage is being looked into, but we have neither seen nor heard any of the progress on the issue. As most code restrictions concern safety, it's very ironic that we're concerned about 48 inches, 42 inches, things for handicapped people, and maybe you can have a sign out there, but maybe you can't, and you can't put out a little sandwich board sign because somebody might trip over it. Yet we have to deal with Myries across the street that's rat infested. We've got things flying off and windstorms and hitting people, and that young man actually was in the hospital, by the way. And that we have to put up with. So it makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. We've waited long enough for derelict buildings to be cleaned up, temporary chain link fences to be removed, and safety risks to be eliminated. When is our city going to stop looking into it and start changing the status quo? Thank you.
You got to come to the 125th anniversary, and you're going to learn why we have these problems and why they haven't been solved. These are interesting real estate problems, actually. The man who owns the block where Myries is would like to develop it. But because of the cost of property and it being waterfront property, and you have to deal with a lot of agencies, he has to build a huge, dramatic building to make it pay. And the processes are all messed up. It takes too long. Here's a man that's come to town, bought a property in town, wants to redevelop it and make it worth more money, which brings revenue into the city, and he's getting the rinky-dinky-do. You have to have a clear, precise process, and it has to be friendly and easy. Growth Management Act wants all the growth in cities. What are we? We're a city. So, when a guy comes in and says, you know what, I just bought this piece of crap building down on Bay Street, and it's a triplex. It's been a triplex since World War II. And you tell him, well, was it legally done into a triplex? Well, heck no, it wasn't. During World War II, you didn't have to get a permit or a reason to make something into a triplex. We had so many people working in the shipyard that every chicken coop, outhouse, doghouse turned into a rental property. And people have invested time and time again through Kitsap County buying these properties. Here is an example of a man that bought one of those properties, and he wants to fix it up, make it worth something, create some affordable housing without spending government money. You're my hero, bro. It's got to be easy. Do you have as much money as Donald Trump? He doesn't. He's a working man just like you and I are. And so I only have so much money. I want to go develop my property and create more value. Here's what I want to do. I bought it as a duplex. I just proved someone rented it in 1978 as a triplex. Can I have my permit? There it is. That's what we got to do to get our town done. If a guy wants to do something, let him do it. If it ain't going to create any danger, let him do it. Sidewalks and banners. Banners sell things. That guys, I think that's too fast. Banners sell things. I've been in the retail business all my life. I've been selling. That's all I know. You put up a balloon on a sign, that creates attention. Retailers and small business people gotta have attention. You put on the 125th anniversary, you need a lot of attention. You gotta put up banners and flags, jump up and down and wait for customers. You gotta let people do it. What, the sign is only 2 inches from this? That's nonsense. Put up a sign, let's get some sales tax revenue. Okay? Sidewalks. The state does not own our sidewalks, and that's another reason why you want to come to the 125th history exhibit, because you're going to learn that the property owners filled in the bay to create the street. They own the street. You'll find out that when we built the marquee, part of the people didn't want to participate in the marquee, and they built their own part of the marquee. The reason why is they knew down the road, government would say, hey, we own your sidewalks. You guys own those sidewalks, property owners. And we got to remind people of that. So that's how we're going to fix our town. Create a process that's fast, quick, and bring your ideas. Hey, that's a damn good idea. Let's build it. Okay? Last of all, the 125th, this woman's done a heck of a job. The bluest skies you ever seen are in Port Orchard. And the hills, the greenest green, are in Port Orchard. Like a beautiful child growing up free and wild, full of hopes and full of fears, full of laughter, full of tears, full of dreams to last the years are in Port Orchard. I'll see you on the 5th in Port Orchard.
Hey, I pity the fool that raises hands after that. No, I didn't really mean that. Please come up.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow, so nobody can hold me responsible if I mess up. I want to get back to the ordinance thing with downtown and the derelict buildings, because I hear what Brian's saying about the expense of developing these properties that have been invested in. However, when those properties were purchased, it was with the understanding of the existing overlay district, the existing heights, the existing requirements. So it is not fair to just keep derelict buildings until we roll over. It's impacting our businesses, our sales tax. I work with the gallery, the art walk, a variety of things, and everybody's always like, what's with Myries? Or they don't know it's Myries. It's like, what's with that building? People love our town. They love the character of our town. I don't want to sell out to make these guys happy because they maybe didn't do their homework. I mean, my opinion is that they need to work within the framework that we have, maybe increase density, but not destroy the views of the people behind them. Okay, that said, I went to a function this Saturday that was regarding the parks and input. People were taking input. It was out by McCormick Woods, and the thing that came across was the people at the Ridge and down by the park have a difficult time crossing the road. It's 45 miles an hour, and they don't have a crosswalk. So I'll put it in writing and send it in, but I just wanted to publicly note that that was feedback that we got, and that perhaps a reduced speed and some or crosswalks. Excuse me, did I say sidewalks? Anyway, crosswalks. I'm still back there with Brian. Would really be a plus. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next. Yes, sir.
Vance Vaught, 243 Tremont Place. I see on the agenda here you guys are going to revisit the motion that was made about the Tremont Overlay District. And I was there for that meeting, and part of the reason that it was revisited was that we may be opening the city up to a lawsuit if we wind up adhering to the exact way that that was written. I was on the Planning Commission when a lot of that stuff went on, and part of the council reaction to the way they voted was that we all worked very hard on that, and I agree. I was part of that. I was working very hard with a lot of that stuff. And my main focus was that there were a lot of people that were supposed to be rezoned so that we could build bigger things and do different things like that. I didn't much care about some of the things that are in this overlay district that were talked about that we need to revise that could be considered as too restrictive for businesses and might open the city up for a lawsuit. We've already opened the city up for that Tremont roundabout, $17 million, which I still find very hard to swallow. And we did that so that we could get a $3 million grant. I would suggest that the city revisit that too, and that would make more sense and make more money for the city. I think we could pay off the $3 million for doing the job properly and not having that grandiose roundabout that is going to be the only thing that our city will be known for, because we'll be bankrupt after that. And that's what bothers me the most, is that a lot of times they talk about we're not going to raise your taxes. Well, when you jump into some of these type of gigantic projects, $17 million for a city of this size for a roundabout, that's unbelievable. And that was the Tremont stuff. That and trying to rezone all of these people that fought in World War II. And when we went to that celebration for World War II, I went in my Coast Guard Auxiliary uniform, which was a volunteer organization. And it saved this country. There were people on the beaches, there were people on horseback, and there was about 60,000 people, volunteers, who came together and protected our country. And that's what we need. We need to get together. We need to do things right. So when you revisit this thing about the overlay district, I hope you'll mention why you're revisiting it so I can understand. And I hope that it's not going to open us up to a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Hi.
My name is Tammy Johnson. I'm a business owner with my sister. We've been in business for 5 years, downtown Port Orchard. And we recently, in January, moved out of our business that was in between the bakery and the market. And Abaddon Corporation purchased the building, which kind of forced us to move. Now they own the whole block, a total of 10 buildings and 1 vacant lot. Why would he be allowed to buy up half our town and be able to sit on half his buildings, which are ran down and rat infested? Myries is an eyesore and a disgrace to our town. We need an ordinance that protects our town from this happening and have a time limit, or he should be fined. We must hold him accountable for his buildings. We also need a city council to enforce this ordinance. I would like to see our city's elected officials to get to know our businesses get to know our business owners and to know us on a first name basis, like Fred Shane and the mayor. They spend a lot of time with us and our businesses, and they've gotten to know us. We can't let him hold our town hostage any longer with his demands and agenda. We need to know what his agenda really is. We depend on our boaters, tourists, and visitors from all over as our main revenue. If we only depended on Port Orchard residents, we would not be in business. We need a town that attracts people. I work for Debbie Maycumber 11 years now. She wrote about our town in her books, the Cedar Cove series, now a series on the Hallmark Channel. We need to step up to the plate and bring our town to the standards she wrote about. We have a chance to embark on the success of Cedar Cove and make our town a tourist destination. The downtown is the heart and soul of Port Orchard. We are blessed with a beautiful waterfront, ferry system, and awesome businesses that love our town. We need our elected city officials to step up and bring our town to the standards we need to be successful. It's time for a new life and new beginnings. Thank you.
Thank you. Time management, please.
Hello, my name is Nars Martinez, and I didn't bring any notes with me, but I just brought my heart. I don't recognize anybody, any council members or anybody sitting here, but one person, and I recognize the mayor. And the reason I don't recognize you is because I'm a business owner also since last November. I've yet to see one of you come and say hello to us. I'm not soliciting business, but you have never come in to say hello to my wife and I. You don't know who we are. We own the old-time photos right next to the frame shop and next to the candy shop. And I think that's a shame. You're council people because you apparently want to care about this town. And you need to know who your people are, or you should, I would think. It's really tough owning a business downtown Port Orchard. Many of you have seen businesses come and go. Well, we came and we're just about ready to leave. It's really difficult for us. It has been. And where I come from big cities. I grew up in big cities, and I know what poverty is. I grew up in it. Rundown buildings, boarded up buildings like downtown Port Orchard. It's a shame. And I know what those are because I lived in them. I grew up in them. And, or next to them, rather. Boarded up buildings means when I was growing up, that's where we went to go party. That's where the homeless slept. That's where the cockroaches were. And to have that downtown for this long, the Myrie's place, it's a shame. And the council or the city should enforce some type of ruling that it's horrible. People are afraid to even walk by there, I've heard. People will be afraid to walk down my own neighborhoods. So it's just a suggestion. If you care for your city, I'm sure that's what you use in your agenda when you ran for city councils. Care for your city. Do something about this. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Please.
Hi, I'm Zelius Martinez, wife of Nars. And like he said, we just opened a business in November, 837 Bay Street, between the candy shop and the frame shop of old-time photos. I'm an old-fashioned girl. I grew up part of my life in the Teton Mountains, and I was taught some real basic principles, hard work, transparency, honesty, and integrity. And I know I may be an old-fashioned girl, but I'm not naive enough to think that politics, even on this level, are politics, and that people sometimes have their own agendas, and they do this for this person and scratch their back for that person, and so on. But like Nars said, hopefully you're here because you really do care about our town. I have not seen any of you, except for the mayor, about 50 bazillion times come to downtown and Fred. And that means a lot to us. We love Port Orchard. We think it's a beautiful town. We have people that come to this end of the town by the market, but they won't walk past Myrie's, and they don't want to take their children past Myrie's because they're scared of it. The alley is scary. The boards are scary. The buildings that are on our block that have the windows all taped up so that you can't see the rats running around. It's scary. And we keep seeming to get more and more empty, vacant buildings. And I can't imagine that any of us, including you, would want that to happen to our town. I think that I hope that you don't feel your duty is just this, to be here tonight to listen to us. I hope that you feel that your duty goes beyond that, because we depend upon you. You are the ones making the changes. You are the ones that, as far as we know, have the power to do that. So please, please do it. Don't let it just stop here. Don't let just us coming here tonight and asking you, don't let that just be your obligation. Please do what you started out doing when you probably ran for these positions. We don't know, because we haven't been told. Nobody's communicated to us why Myrie's is like that, or why the sign regulations are the way they are, or why there's boarded up buildings, and why some of the people that own so much of the town are asking such expensive rents that nobody could possibly even make it there. We don't know. We just want to be communicated with so that we know. And I think that I think that everybody feels the same way about that. So I have one other thing to say. When we opened our business, I know my time is up. Even though we're renting the building, we were told we couldn't put a sign inside the window stating what our business was or had our business name or what we did. I don't understand that. If I'm paying rent for that building, why weren't we allowed to put a sign in our window saying the name of our business or what we did without paying extra for special permits for that? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, next, please.
And I'm not really dressed. I was sneaking in here. I'm also a property, or not a property owner, but a storefront owner on Bay Street. My question to all of you is there a city planner? I have never seen a city plan. I'm hearing about how people have to conform to certain restrictions, some of which I have never heard of. But usually in a city, we have a vision. We know what direction we're going to move in. And if people are unaware of the direction this town is going in, it's kind of hard to comply. We need
Jeannie, can you tell us your name?
I'm sorry, Fred, go ahead.
Can you just tell us your name?
I'm so sorry. I'm Jean Foster. Okay. I told you I wasn't prepared for this. But anyway, normally people have a plan. I don't see one for Port Orchard. It's scattered. I don't know if we have a city planner. Most cities I've lived in have had a city planner. We know exactly what direction we're moving in. We know what kind of vision we want for Port Orchard. I don't hear any of that here. We're lost. And without a direction, we can't change it. We need you to be that direction. That's why you're here. That's why you're elected officials. But those ideas should be conveyed to every store owner here. And without that, we're going to be scattered like we are now. There shouldn't be these problems. And just to put something else, this is totally different. I'm really upset about the 2-hour time period on the parking on Bay Street. Most people who want to shop here or dine here in 2 hours or they get ticketed, it's absurd. It should be at least 4 hours. And we should be promoting each other's businesses more. And interacting more. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I just hope to see, I'm going to be back. This is my first time I've ever been here, but I am going to come back.
Hey, don't leave yet. I just wanted to tell you that we do have a planning department.
Okay.
If you go online, cityofportorchard.us,
all right,
there's a place on the top. You can click on planning department, and we do have some plans, and they've been published for years, but you have to go look for them and read them. So please do that before you come back. And
but something I want to say to him, it's fine to have something down that's verbal. We need a visual plan. We need a visual plan.
There's some of those. There's quite a lot of information.
Well, then I think what we need to do is start, I guess, interacting more, and so people are aware of what those plans are, so that we can all follow suit.
Implement the plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yep. Please.
KT Arthur. I'm a businesswoman and resident of Kitsap County. Everything that happens in this city does indeed affect me. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lucarelli. Brian already smacked the podium tonight. I will not be able to get your attention like I did before. My next comment is for Beck, who is not here. I cannot begin to tell you how deeply you have disappointed us. And for everybody else, we have been looking for leadership. We have been looking for a council that cares. Have you guys been downtown lately? No, you haven't. Fred has. The mayor has. The rest of you haven't. You show up when there's food, don't you? There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration because people don't know what's going on. Because as far as we know, you guys don't give a fig. We don't see you. We don't think you care. We think you care about the dollar. We all want to make a living. We all care about the dollar. We all want, well, no, maybe we don't all want this city to succeed. There are some people who own a great deal of property downtown who don't want this city to succeed. They want to put up possibly, I can't speak for the gentleman, 3- and 4-story condos with, I don't know, research facilities, high-end medical buildings underneath. We don't know because nobody's speaking to us. His current property manager is driving his properties into the ground. The bakery was forced out of business. The public market's on its way out. Lally Mays had to move because they were put on a 6-month, month-to-month inflated rent increase. What kind of a signal is this to your community? Not something where people care. We want a city council who cares, who participates, who wants to be here, who can envision retiring here, which is one of the reasons why we have a mayor, because he has children and grandchildren who are invested in this city. We don't want people with dubious legal paths coming on our city council. We want to have honest, hardworking, salt-of-the-earth people, whereas we are a community of blue-collar and military, and yes, we are a bedroom community to Seattle. More and more of us are moving in here. I have a spouse who has commuted to Microsoft for 20 years. We've made it happen. We want to continue to make it happen. I want my grandchildren to feel comfortable here, but they're not going to with you people.
Thank you. Anyone else? Start on this side. Moving. Yes, sir.
About how the old timers of the town kept their retail businesses going long after all the other towns died in Kitsap. You're going to find out about the rat problem that's been here since 1900. And I do have done business with the man that owns that block. He doesn't want to block people's view. He wants to be very creative to develop a property that's going to jumpstart downtown.
Bring him in to talk to us.
No.
Bring him in. Where is he?
Okay.
And so,
Please, we do not need to get a discussion and debate going across the room. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? All right. Thank you. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Council members?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to add item 4D, excusing council members Clausen and Ashby.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add consent agenda item. Yeah, we should have waited until we got to the consent agenda. We're on the regular agenda at this point.
Can't prove the agenda without.
Okay, so we're going to add the consent agenda item excusing Mr. Clausen and Ms. Ashby. Is there any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Oh, I was going to move approval of the agenda.
Well, we need to vote on the motion on the floor first.
We kind of went out of sync, but we're going to go ahead and while we're here, let's go ahead and any other discussion on item D, adding item D? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, that motion passes. Mr. Chang?
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion, changes, corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. The agenda is approved, and now we're moving on to the consent agenda. What's your pleasure?
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented, as amended.
As amended. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. That motion carries. Okay, we're on item 5, presentations. We have none listed. And item 6, we have no public hearings at this time. So we'll move on to business item 7A. And Ms. Reinerson, could you tell us about business item 7A, please?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. So on July 28, 2015, a motion was made by the City Council on a proposed 2015 Comprehensive Plan Amendment agenda containing a single amendment to remove references of the Tremont Overlay District from the Comprehensive Plan. The vote was 3-3, and the mayor broke the tie, voting in favor of approving the 2015 agenda. Since the meeting, staff spoke with the absent council member, and for the interest of saving significant amount of staff time working on this project, it was recommended to bring this item to the August 18th work study session for additional discussion. At that meeting, the absent council member voiced support on the proposed 2015 Comprehensive Plan Amendment agenda containing a single amendment to remove references to the Tremont Overlay District from the Comprehensive Plan, and that would change the direction of the previous adopted motion. The other council members voiced his support. The other council member voiced their support, and Councilmember Patanzu will rescind the motion made at the July 28th meeting at the next council meeting, which is tonight. So based on Robert's Rules of Order, any council member wishing to rescind a previous motion could do so by one of the following: notice given to the majority of the council that a motion is being rescinded, a 2/3 majority vote, or the vote of the majority of the entire membership of the body, the voting body. Giving notice to the majority of the council is done by one of the following: by announcing an intent to make such a motion at the meeting immediately preceding the meeting at which the motion is made, or by having the secretary include notice of that intent in the call of the meeting at which the motion is to be made. This is the written notice of the time and place of the meeting, which is mailed or distributed to members in advance of the meeting. On August 20th, 2015, written notice was given to all council members regarding a motion being rescinded, and because of that, the motion being made to rescind will only need a simple majority to pass. The previous motion on the floor that passed, the previous motion that passed was motion by Councilmember Clausen, second by Councilmember Patanzu, to adopt the attached 2015 Comprehensive Plan Amendment agenda as presented.
Okay, Council, Mr. Patanzu.
Move to rescind the motion relating to the Tremont Overlay District for the 2015 Comprehensive Plan Amendment as previously presented at the July 28th, 2015 council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second to rescind the motion adopted. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was the council member that was absent, and I'm going to answer the public's question earlier. I got a call from Nick Bond wanting to know how I would have voted had I voted on that motion. And basically what I understood the motion to be was to remove the interim ordinance and remove it from the comp plan, the overlay. And I felt that we had done significant amount of work designing the districts and neighborhoods, city centers, and I did not want to have a significant city center of the Tremont Overlay District removed from the comp plan. It may not be perfect, but at least there's something there, and I'd rather have something there that speaks to zoning and design than nothing there. And so with that understanding that we still have significant work to do for how we want those city centers to look, with the overall vision that I thought we had presented of each one could look a little different than the next one. You know, downtown's not the same thing as Tremont, and there'll be work to go when we do Bethel and when we do Sydney, et cetera. So that was just basically my position. I am not aware of any pending litigation on that overlay. So that's my 2 cents.
Mr. Patanzu?
I made the motion to rescind based on gaining the knowledge that Mr. Cartwright would vote, how he would vote when the comp plan amendment came about. So I didn't want to see staff do 2 or 3 months worth of work when we knew what the outcome of the vote was going to be and so I felt it was going to be unnecessary work. I agree with Mr. Cartwright that we have still work to do for these overlay districts and city centers, but obviously the council is not going to want to have this as part of the comprehensive plan process, and I just didn't want to waste staff resources going through that process when we already knew the outcome was going to be.
Any other comments? Mr. Chang?
I don't know what I can add that can make this simple to understand, because the issue is actually a little complex. My understanding was supporting a hearing that would hear more input from the public about the possible removal of this overlay. That's why I supported the motion on July 28th. I did not think it was voting to actually abolish it, but to entertain the idea of hearing more input. I am comfortable with that decision being made, whether or not we keep it, and to not have that opportunity for more input. Some people feel there has already been enough input on this issue.
All right. Any other discussion? Any other? All right, we have a motion on the floor to rescind a motion to adopt the attached 2015 Comprehensive Plan Amendment agenda as presented at the July 28, 2015 City Council meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Let the record show that motion passes. Okay, we're on to item 7B, approval of contract with P&D Engineering. Mr. Dorsey, could you bring us up to speed on this one, please?
Thank you, Your Honor, council members. As part of the recently approved 2015-2017 capital budget, the City of Port Orchard received an additional $500,000 Community Capital Facilities Grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce for the completion of the DeKalb Pier repair, replacement, and renovation project, being the Phase 2 pier extension and float replacement work. As you will recall, the city was awarded $679,000 within the 2011-2013 capital budget, whereby the Phase 1 and Phase 2 final design and permitting work was complete, as well as the Phase 1 construction. Then, within the 2013-15 capital budget, the city was awarded $255,000 from the capital budget for Phase 2 completion, but the city was unable to move forward with the project completion until all needed funding was in place. Now, with the recent $500,000 award, combined with the previous $255,000 award, it is anticipated that the DeKalb Pier Phase 2 work can now be completed within 2016. In the meantime, the city must update the permits issued in 2013 in order to finalize the Department of Commerce contracts in early 2016 for the $755,000 funding. And please note that there is a memo from the attorney attached with the packet as well, addressing contract issues. At this point, staff recommends that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute contract 025-15 with P&D Engineers in the amount not to exceed $4,000 for the DeKalb Pier Phase 2 required permit updates.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute contract number 025-15 with PND Engineers, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $4,000 for the DeKalb Pier Phase 2 required permit updates.
Relly, seconded. Floor for discussion. Any questions or discussion? Seeing no questions or discussions, we're going to be approving contract with P&D Engineering as read into the record. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Thank you. That motion carries. All right, that takes care of our business items. We'll move on to report of council committees. Mr. Clausen is not here for the Finance Committee. Does anybody?
Mayor, we have an executive session.
Are we going to take any action after that meeting? The executive session?
You might be taking action.
Okay.
Pardon me?
Executive session?
Oh, it's not on, yeah, I'm not looking at the right paper. Okay, here's executive session. All right. Yes, we're going to go into executive session pursuant to RCW 4230, 110, 1, and I. and the council will hold this executive session, how long? For 30 minutes?
No.
And there's no anticipated action to be taken after this one, or? We don't know. Okay. So we're going to go into executive session for 30 minutes. Could you start the timer when the last person goes in the room, please? All right. We're back in regular session and through with our executive session. So we'll go to reports of the council committee. And Mr. Clausen is not here, but does anybody have a finance committee? Yes.
I do.
Mr. Patonson.
Finance committee met this evening. The sales tax reports were favorable. Last 2 months we received tonight. For the year, we are 3% better than budget and about $82,000. Next item was the court video system. They've got the bid for that. It's more than we anticipated, but it's a necessary expenditure. It's about $8,500. $8,500. Our alternative, it's basically for video arraignment. If we don't replace it, we're going to be forced to transport prisoners back and forth between the jail and our court, and it'll cost us considerably more than that. So it's something we need to do. So that'll be coming to the full council here soon, I believe. Also, there were 4th of July. One of our officers was hit on on a motorcycle. Our motorcycle, city patrol motorcycle. Wasn't our fault. We received our officer's fault. We received $10,000 insurance proceeds. Those motorcycles cost about $37,000. We've found, or the chief has found one. That Federal Way is getting all new motorcycles, and Paul's both buying one, and there's one more that's available. It looks like we can get it. It's got 30,000 miles, I believe, and it'll cost.
Brand new.
Yeah, it looks brand new.
All the equipment.
And it comes with fully equipped for $7,000. So we told him to secure that, and that's in a nutshell. That's it.
All right. Councilwoman Ashby is not here for Economic Development Tourism. Is there any report?
There's no report. Our next meeting will be September 14th, immediately following the Public Property Committee here.
Okay, thank you. Utility Committee, Sewer Advisory Committee, Mr. Patonson.
Utilities meets September 8th is our next meeting. We haven't met since our last council meeting.
Hey, Public Properties, Mr. Cartwright.
There's no report. Our next meeting will be here September 14th at 8:30.
Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Mr. Chang.
The committee met on Monday. Was it? Yes, 2 days ago. It seems a long time ago.
No, the
Last
Monday
week.
prior to that.
Okay. The committee
17th.
went over what did we go over? We went over the schedule of what we need to do. We okayed an application that will be released to applicants, and we talked about the contract. Actually, half of us talked about the contract. It was sort of 2 meetings at once. And the next meeting will be in October with the with the applicants and their completed applications.
Okay, thank you. Chimes and Lights, Ms. Lucarelli.
The next meeting is September 14th, 3:30 here at City Hall.
All right, there's a scheduled work study, September 15th, and we're having a town hall meeting on October 15th. 125th City Anniversary Committee. Ms. Reinerson, do you have a report for us?
I don't really have anything more to add than what Ms. Sharon had earlier, so.
Okay, thank you. Outside agencies, Mr. Cartwright, do you have?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sat in with Beck Ashby for the KRCC Transpol on August 13th. Most of the meeting was the first time we kind of met Mary McClure's replacement, and that was Betsy Daniels with Triangle Associates. They outlined some of the money that came through that we had already heard about here from Deanna Taylor, and some of the same conversations in regards to not quite sure when the money's coming through, but it is programmed into the transportation budget. So I won't rehash that, but we will say that, you know, Bay Street did get the $3.5 million in DeKalb Pier. A lot of the discussions also around what we want to do for the proposed 2015 work plan and the draft 2016 work plan, state transportation funding, which I just mentioned, countywide multimodal transportation phase 2. Kitsap Transit will lead phase 2 on the multimodal transportation plan. And then there was just a little discussion between Transpolis and TransTac members on how they want to work that group going forward. It was basically just kind of everybody get to know each other and move forward. So there wasn't a lot of actual pen to paper kind of work done. That's all I have.
Okay, is there any other outside agency reports? Oh, seeing none. Okay, we'll go on to, let's see, the mayor's report. And I really don't have anything other than that I was at the last 125th anniversary planning meeting, and it's really exciting, and it's all starting to come together. So I do hope all the citizens come and enjoy the full activities all day, starting on the 5th. And it'll also move over into the 6th. We're having Taste of Port Orchard on the 6th. So that's going to be a very full weekend. All right. Department heads. Mr. Dorsey, do you have a report for us?
Yes, just want to let council know that staff has started conversations with Puget Sound Energy. Our current franchise agreement, I think it was 30 years, is up for renewal October of 2016. So there's not a lot, I think, in the franchise to change, but we're going to probably in early 2016 start at utility committee with maybe some updates. I think we'll have Carol review the existing 30-year-old agreement. I know that Tom Probst looked at it and he has no proposed changes. So just want to let you know we're working on that, and then just a reminder that the storm drainage discussion as directed by council will be at the September 8th utility committee.
Do you have any news on the sinkhole that's developing?
Based on what I saw today and pulling up maps, I think I can say that it is not a city issue at this point. But we shall see.
Okay. Mr. Bond, do you have a report for us?
Mr. Dorsey forgot to mention that we had a productive discussion today with Senator Angel concerning Bethel and Sedgwick and just future city needs with regards to those corridors. And so it's on her radar, and she has requested a couple of things from us that she's going to follow up with at WSDOT.
Okay, good. All right. City Attorney Morris? No. City Clerk Reinerson?
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. We're at the citizens' comment period at the end of the meeting. Please raise your hand. I don't think anybody signed up, but yes, please.
Thank you, Lissa Whittleton. I had a question. Now that we're kind of looking at potential drought situations, last year there was a lot of controversy over the water in perpetuity for Well 4B, and I believe they are entitled to 345,000 acre feet of water. My question is, if we go into a drought situation, can that be restricted in any way, or do they get it off the top?
I guess it's all down there. I know we don't do this, but their Well 4B isn't connected to our system at all. It's completely independent. It's just a standalone well that puts water into their golf course. So there's no, we have no, operation of that well. They're just, if they go more than what, it's their well, they produce the water from it. So we just transferred back the water rights, but the actual function of the well is, it's their well and their aquifer.
So they can just draw that much in perpetuity?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, other than if they go over what the agreement said, then they have to reimburse the city. But other than that, it's not like they're taking water out of our system.
Okay, that's something I wanted to understand. It's been a tough one for me to follow, even to find the documentation. So I was curious about that with the water situation because I'm really into conservation. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Mike Elias, Kitsap Realtors. And actually, Jerry made a comment at a previous meeting when we were debating transportation impact fees. It'd be nice to see people at the meetings more often. And I took your advice. I'm trying as much as I can. As you know, I've serviced the entire county, and I've been the executive for the CEOs for the state organizations. I travel the state a lot. So it's a challenge to go to every meeting, but we're doing our best. And I would like to encourage the business owners who aren't here, same thing. If you expect the council members to be at your businesses and spend time down there, give them the courtesy of being here for the entire meeting. Don't come here during public comment, make your comments and then leave. And the other thing is encourage them to come. Don't make pot shots. We know it's the silly season. It's election time. There's probably going to be more of that between now and November, but don't take shots at somebody and say, well, you'll go there if there's free food. I think that was completely inappropriate. And by the way, she's a member of our organization, so. But I will give her credit. She didn't introduce herself as such. At the last meeting, when you were discussing development codes, the comment was made that BIEW took about 30 days. And I had mentioned after the meeting that wasn't part of the record. Teresa's here. She'd have to speak for her organization. But if you have any proposed changes to it, if you get those to us piecemeal in sections, we probably have a 3 to 5 day turnaround. It's not going to take 30 days, as was mentioned at the study session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, please.
Good evening, Council. For the record, I'm Teresa Osinski with the Home Builders Association, and I'm only speaking because Mike mentioned the Home Builders Association. I wasn't at the previous meeting. I understand the attorney made some reference to a document being sent to the Building Industry Association of Washington for comment, and that there was some 30-day review period. Just so that you're aware, the Home Builders Association is a local organization. Our state association actually works for us. So if there's any need of any review of any documents related to anything associated to construction in the city of Port Orchard, it would be properly sent to the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County. And had anything been sent to the Building Industry Association of Washington, I have great confidence that it would have been sent to me. Thank you.
Okay. Please.
I wasn't going to speak tonight because you've had so many people, but since Elise was talking about water, it reminded me, I was coming in from like the Albertsons out close to Sedgwick, and some of the care facilities have really nice green lawns, but they're also watering the road an awful lot, and it just seems like that maybe a little letter to them about water's at a premium right now, and that they had basically a lake the last time I came through. Beautiful green lawn, but a lot of water out on Pottery? I don't know street names very.
Jerry, I think a letter from you to the editor of the newspaper would do a lot more than a letter from us.
Okay, because I talked to Albertsons up on Mile Hill a few years ago about watering the parking lot, and there was a lot of water, and talked to a manager, and he says, we don't own it, it's not our problem. And so it's just, I have one dried up lawn, and here are other people watering the roadway to such an extent that it's discouraging. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Are you going to sing?
Tell us your name this time.
I want to thank you, everyone up there. I know that you're not doing this for the money or a paycheck, and I just want to thank you because you all are basically volunteers. And some people get confused. They don't know what elected officials in this city government does, but I want to thank you for taking the time to let me talk a little longer. I want to thank you for taking the time to let this man try to tell you his opinion of things. That I commend you. That's the spirit of the town. That's what everyone up here has done over 100 years. And so that's what I think makes Port Orchard government the best in the county. I also want to paint a picture about the owner. If you're a worldwide businessman and, you got more money than you know what to do with, and, if you put it in the bank, you can only get 1% or 2% for it. Those people are what we would call the 1%ers. They're putting their money in real estate if they're smart. Now, if you're a businessman and you have properties all over the world and you like to buy waterfront properties, and you've got a choice of investing in Port Orchard right now or investing in Bellevue or Dubai or wherever, you're going to go elsewhere right now because the upside is not great enough right now here in Kitsap County. So I've brought this forward for a few years since Derek Kilmer got the legislation in that small cities can take advantage of what was given to Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane years ago. You create a blight district. You create a property tax incentive for a guy to develop his property and not have to pay the increased value of property taxes for 10 years. That's what you have to do. That's the first thing you have to do before transportation fees or other fees. We got to do this now. We got to do it from Port Orchard Boulevard to Rockwell. That gives any investor the opportunity. That's enough incentive financially to have him take a serious look at my property. I can develop it. That's enough to offset the costs of development and some of the fees. You got to give them an incentive to want to. And that's good for big business guys and small business guys. You got to do that first. It's a great tool. Now, you may think, well, gosh, we're not going to get that extra income for 10 years. But when someone develops a big piece of property, they have to pay for infrastructure improvements and that sort of thing. So that's why you guys want to do that. The law's there, the tool's there for it. Just get it done. You can do this at the next meeting if you wanted to. Once you do that, it'll be an incentive and people will start wanting to invest in their properties in town. And it's just enough edge for them to look at Kitsap County rather than the I-5 corridor. Because if I have a $100,000 property and I put $10 million into it and I can only get $25 million worth of value here, I'm just throwing numbers out. But if I could take that same property on I-5 corridor and make it worth $50 million, where are you going to go? I'm going to go where I can get the most buck for my value in investing in my property wherever it may be. I just wanted to paint that picture because that's kind of where you're at. And the county doesn't want to create a shadow city.
Okay.
If you do that,
I think we would have a pretty robust discussion, pro and con, on that idea. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? Seeing none, anything for the good of the order? We stand adjourned.